Hi, and welcome back for part 3 in our series on the Wing Chun Punch. Some of you might think I've done a Peter Jackson and taken a relatively simple idea and somehow stretched it out over an entire trilogy. But no, not in my opinion. There is so much detail that goes into making the Wing Chun Punch work to create that effortless, penetrating, close-range power that we're seeking in our punch, that we really could go on and on. But we won't. It's the last in the series, I promise. So what are we going to look at today? I'm going to look at how I get students to practice the punch when they come in. Well, first of all, when students come in, new students, they always want to see that as quickly as possible, the old focus mitt. Kind of reminds me if you have a dog and you pick up the leash, they just see that and they lose it. They start losing it. No, and that's partly why I don't. Before you get all excited, calm down, boy. You'll get to hump somebody's leg real soon. But before then, we need to go through some basic theory. And so this theory that I take new students through on the punching is using this analogy. And now, it's not a perfect analogy, but it does have some merit, so please, bear with me. And the analogy I use is changing the tire on your car. Now, in punching, most people will focus on just the mechanical, the jack, movement of the hand. That is very important. The object we're seeking to move, the car, is always going to be heavier than us. So we want to have maximum mechanical efficiency in order to do that, yes. But there are a couple of other important factors to consider when changing the car tire. Well, first is the underlying structure. If I try to change my tire on mud or snow, not going to work. Any force I create is just going to sink down into the ground. The structure is not capable of withstanding the force I'm trying to create. So we need to have a good structure. And how do we get that good structure so that when we deliver force, it's going into the opponent, not pushing us backwards? The second point to look at is where and what direction do we apply that force? For example, changing the tire. If I try to put the jack at the front of the car and lift the bumper up, no, not a good idea. Not the correct place to apply force. I won't get the desired outcome. In the same way, everywhere is not equal in terms of hitting. This is my belief. There are some places that are better to hit than others. So generate as much force as you can, but then apply it in the right place. These are the two things we're going to look at today. So we're starting off with structure, and as I mentioned, we don't go with this. Best way to test structure, I find, for students beginning, Anton, is good old wall bag. Now, how I normally start students in their first lesson is to get them really, really close to the wall bag to practice punching. Why? Because obviously, the wall and the wall bag are going nowhere. This is all about the student coming in and understanding limitations in their own structure. That if they, especially if they come in really close like Anton is and they practice against there, any muscular tension for me, please hit the bag. You see how he starts to push himself away from the wall. So, thank you, just a moment. This is a very, very, very good test I find, especially for students coming in. I learn a lot about the character of the students in. If they're all about, I want to hit things hard, this is a great humbling factor. Wall's going nowhere, as I said. They get in really close. Every time they hit with any tension, they push themselves back. So it's a way of saying, your opponent is always going to be bigger than you. You need to develop a good structure so that you can develop force without pushing yourself backwards. We begin with the wall. To learn how to have the correct structure, loosen all the joints so that you're not rocking back on your heels, so that you're not pushing your shoulder back. All of these things. It's a test of patience. It's a way of understanding structure. So, generally, this is my belief. I start students here on the wall bag. Talking about structure and the punch, there's one issue I'd like to clear up. Many people seem to believe that on impact, to get force into the opponent, you should tense your wrist or flick the wrist or something else like that. Which is kind of strange to me because here we are, well, here I am, preaching relaxation, and if at the very, very end I said to you, forget all that, throw that out the window, now tense, because that's the only way to get the force into the person. It doesn't make sense. It's like saying, here's how to cook a lovely vegetarian meal, and right at the end, you take a whole bunch of lard and you just pour it all over it. It's just totally contradictory. When I tense on impact, if I do, yeah, I can get some force, but it's going to impact me. You stay totally relaxed all the way through. This is how I do my punch. Other people may be different. But I stay perfectly relaxed all the way through, and I drive the force through him. Now, the reason is, when you form your fist, the force comes straight along the hand, out through this bottom knuckle. And everything's perfectly aligned. It's much the same as the palm strike. Now, when you form that structure, you don't increase the strength of that by clenching the knuckles together as harder. That doesn't make for a better structure. In fact, as we've seen through these videos, that creates tension. You can see these here in my bony little hands, how that's standing out. Now that's something that's going to cause force to go into me. So you just form the correct alignment, force coming out through the bottom knuckles, drive through, like so. That's all that is required. On another point, I feel the palm strike is underrated. That it is a beautiful weapon in Wing Chun for hitting, and we'll look at that in just a moment. Where you hit, straight through there, equally powerful as the punch. And obviously I don't do it by tensing there or anything else like that. So from here, just simply straight through. The next topic is force, where to apply it, and what direction. Now what do I mean, where to apply it? It's not as easy to hurt someone as you might think. Just simply punching someone in the head, you may think you're doing damage. It's not always that case. For example, let's go for a vulnerable area, my nose here. Okay, Anton, I want you to break my nose, please. Okay. How's that feel in your knuckles?
Yeah.
All things being equal, your opponent is not going to stand around. He's just not going to stand there for you to hit. So what may look like a really attractive target, a split second later, all I did is, some people do this, they just drop your forehead to protect the nose, this being quite a hard structure. It's not what you have to do. What I'm just saying is, he thought he had an easy target, next thing you know, his knuckles are getting smashed. I've discussed before my fighting philosophy. We're talking about force now, and where do we apply it and what direction? And so, my fighting philosophy, if you want to call it that, is that I'm the bad taxi driver. If you pick me, you will regret it, and I'm going to take you and your body places they don't want to go. So, what I mean by that is, where we apply force is quite important. So, hitting someone where they can shed force easily. So, if I'm hitting him here in the body, yep, some force is going to go into him, but a lot of it is just easily going to be shed by his body. I don't want to do that. I want to utilize all the force that I can generate. The palm, why I prefer it. Some parts are easier to hit with the palm. And this is also the benefit of this whole soft, relaxed approach. For example, I've said I like to hit the throat region, and but not everyone's a fool. Some people may shape up like this and they're tucked in, so he's protecting his chin. Now if I go in with hard sort of force, I'm not going to get to that chin. Or if I somehow get a way through and I'm using a fist, I can't really get that in there. But now I'm just going to do everything I've been talking about so far. Nice and relaxed, go for the throat, use the palm. Okay, so you know I'm coming. So from there, see, just there like that. Now, okay, so you know what's going to happen now. So you protect that neck at all costs, because this comes through, or maybe this one, don't know. So you protect that neck. He's going to try and stop me. But you see, by virtue of being relaxed, it just opens the neck up automatically, which is why I say when we practice this side of Wing Chun, that to me is just a natural place where I want to hit. Bad taxi driver, want to take him places he don't want to go. And that's where I'm going for. So the last component, direction of force. Okay, so again, my belief is that every bit of force that we develop, we don't want to waste it. We don't want to waste it pushing ourselves backwards, hence me starting the students off against the wall bag. Nor do I want to waste that force pushing the opponent away. For example, I do my punch like this. From here, here's the opponent, I drive straight through. Okay, I developed some force into the opponent, but as you can see, most of the force pushed him away. I remember Super Derek used to say to me like that, said, that's okay, but you're going to spend all your time chasing your opponent around. His philosophy was, opponent attacks you, you're too lazy to chase him around. You nail him into the ground until you're finished with him. What do I mean? So instead of my force driving the opponent that way, I drop the force into the opponent there. Can you feel it drive into your midsection?
Yeah, it breaks your hips.
It breaks your hips there, precisely. Now this is, I'm giving away some Wing Chun tricks here. Or if you're an Arrested Development fan, illusions, Michael, not tricks. Okay, I'm giving away some Wing Chun illusions here. In the first video, I know a lot of people were sort of skeptical and they're saying, well, how on earth did one punch drop two people? Come on, let's be logical here. If I line up a row of dominoes and I knock the first one down, it's not as though I cast some magic spell and bang, I knock down 100 dominoes. No. First object falls, knocks the second object, etc., etc. So in the first video, all I had was two people lined up behind each other. If I drop the first person, that person knocks the second person down. In no way was I suggesting my punch is so magical that it, well, bow, went through the first person and knocked the second person. But how do I drop the first person? It is not, see, because the person is standing square onto you. They can shed force quite easily, the taxi driver analogy. So if I push him here, some force will go into him, but it just pivots his body. If I aim at his spine, but I'm just going straight, then it pushes him whole body back like that. Instead, I think of, I punch and it looks straight, but my intention is to nail him. So the force, as you can see, it breaks his midsection there, which is why I'm delivering force into him. He can't shed it, the weight goes into him. So one more time, just with a pad, as you can see here, not going straight into the person like that. Drive the force. Get maximum value from every single punch that you deliver. Force into the opponent, they absorb it all. Break their structure, hurt them. So in conclusion, I just want to make a few comments about structure, the underlying structure. Now, I have said today that is very important. And it certainly is. When new students come in, I spend a great deal of time with them explaining what is Yiji Kim Yong Ma, how to practice it, why you need to keep practicing it throughout your Wing Chun career, your life, so that you gain greater and greater understanding of how do I use my body with maximum efficiency, align the joints perfectly, try to free yourself from tension. All of this tremendously important. However, we cannot be a slave to structure itself. What do I mean? As students progress and they are practicing technique, be it chi sao or punching or whatever they are doing, then I do not say to them, oh, first measure out Yiji Kim Yong Ma. Okay, no. The moment we say go, you form your structure. I often advise students to remember the words of legendary Japanese swordsman Musashi. He said effectively, make your fighting stance your everyday stance, and your everyday stance your fighting stance. This is what I feel I want my students to try and achieve, to be liberated from the idea that in order to fight, they must be standing in a certain shape, or that they must have the right configuration of weight, or 70-30, or here. No such thing. There is no secret footwork in our style. There is no secret method. There is only your ability to move out of the way of harm and move into range to deliver force. Move naturally. Natural body movement is critical, rather than some secret footwork or anything else. So when you understand your body, then move. Move it as you need to. Move as quickly as you can, as quickly as you need to. Liberate yourself from the idea that you have to be in a certain shape. No. That is not to say that you can stand with your feet too wide apart or anything else, because the consideration is you've got to stand naturally so that you can move as quickly as you can. This is a complex subject, and I will try and cover it separately in another video. But I want to emphasize again, I've talked about underlying structure, very important. but we do not strive to be slaves to the structure. Otherwise, how could we apply our Wing Chun in different situations? If you are pushed against the wall, does it mean now I cannot because I don't have Yiji Kim Yong Ma? Or what about if I'm taken down low? Can I not hit? No. It doesn't mean that in order to do the Wing Chun punch, I always must be facing you square on, punch down the center line, elbow pointing down. No. You will not always be able to control the situation. Sometimes I may need to hit sideways. Wherever the danger is coming from, I must just react and be able to do so using my whole body structure and deliver force where I want. That is truly where I feel that you should be taking your Wing Chun. To liberate yourself from fixed shapes, fixed positions. Understand yourself and your body. How to deliver force in whatever direction you are focused at will.